Have you ever found yourself manically refreshing a page to an access link, an invite, a ticket to an event, or a drop, only to get utterly disappointed after being queued in a line that seems never ending? With the normalized culture of exclusivity and limited access, my darling, you might have fell victim to what I'd like to call cattle culture. In the recent events of Ulta Beauty World pulling a fast one on its fans and not delivering after months of false advertisement, today I would like to talk about how this doesn't happen because people are naive, but rather there are social systems designed for us to participate in these processes of frantic predictability, promising that we're going to get something that's not meant for us. Hey y'all, I'm Valise, a studying sociologist, and this is Socially Speaking, a show where I talk about current events and place them and tie them to the sociological patterns they reside in, so you can make sense of it all. So, what is cattle culture? Well, I coined the term cattle culture because I've seen or noticed the mass herding of people being able or wanting to get into limited and exclusive timed drop events of products and services to be able to entice fans to want to do something. This past week, as most of us, not many of us, but most of us have known that Ulta Beauty promised its fans for the past 3 months access to an event of networking, accessibility, and inclusivity by marketing, a beauty convention to be held in Orlando, Florida, this coming April. Throughout the marketing, they've absolutely promised that everyone's a VIP and that everyone could be able to get a ticket to this beauty convention, where major brands would be there selling products, finding products, and giving away products to where people can network, connect, and be able to be in the love of beauty and makeup. I and several others, not just in the state of Florida, but all over the United States, have been waiting and wanting to be able to get into this ticketed event, knowing that last year they held one in San Antonio, and it was a hit. Most of everyone into the online spaces that is Ulta Beauty made sure that they were setting aside money, setting aside time, and setting aside emotion to be able to get into something that is called Ulta Beauty World. With Ulta Beauty World, and with most of what I like to call drop culture, is that the exclusivity and the limited accessibility of these places makes us believe that we can get in and that we're VIP to be able to get a ticket to these exclusive, limited things. But with that, and why I like to call this episode cattle culture, is because brands and companies that have been able to do this and been able to hype up a big thing that really hasn't been able to be promised to us, keeps us, the fans, or keeps us, the loyal customers, in a mass herding of people and in a mass herding of livestock almost. In my own experience, and with a lot of other experiences of other people online who are in the beauty spaces and beauty community, have really understood and realized that their voices do not matter when it comes to something as frantic or as unpredictable as Ulta Beauty World. Yes, it was a great event last year, and San Antonio had a great turnout. But the problem with Ulta Beauty World is that its marketing has been able to make it a larger than life, bigger than program expectation and turnout. Throughout the marketing, Ulta has promised that everyone is a VIP and that everyone will get tickets to this event. People were skeptical, saying that, is this only an event for influencers? Are you sure we don't have to sign up for something different? And Ulta rests assured that this is an event for everyone and that everyone will be able to get in line and be able to get a ticket. But that didn't quite turn out the way it could have and should have. We've waited and absolutely took time, money, emotion out of our days where they've made sure that the limited drop or the exclusivity of these ticket drops were to be had at a certain time and at a certain day of January. In the middle of a business week, in the middle of a work week, everyone had to stop everything that they were doing to be able to make sure that they were able to get into this a queue of line or tickets, without understanding or actually being promised the predictability of getting a ticket. Why I call this cattle culture is because we've been able to not only herd ourselves into frantic predictability, but we've also promised ourselves that we're entitled to this exclusivity of the drop or this service or an event in this case. Ulta Beauty made everyone wait into a certain line, a certain task, a C event link, where you weren't really promised anything, and you looked and waited for these green dots to agonizingly keep on filling up. And then all of a sudden, after an hour and a half of waiting, biting your nails in anxiety, it says Sorry, we're all sold out. We're all sold out. How many people were in queue? Come to find out, 3 million people were in queue, and Ulta Beauty World only released 3,000 tickets. With that, not only was there disappointment, but there was absolute rage considering the amount of marketing, the amount of branding, and the amount of inclusivity Ulta Beauty promised its fans. Not to mention, the ticket itself is $160 with a $5 processing fee. They promised this event to be one of free products and networking and inclusivity and being a 60+ brands and being able to get free full-size products from these brands. Influencers that attended last year's event made it a very, very known deal that San Antonio gave them well over enough products, over $2,000 worth of products. So this is a good deal, no? Everyone in the state of Florida and across nationwide was ready to be at this year's Ulta Beauty World. But with the way the ticketing worked and the way the queue worked and the way there was empty promises all over the place, Ulta Beauty not only fumbled, but made sure that their fans felt like cattle at the end of the day. And in a branding marketing view of this, not only are you promising your loyal customers something that they can't obtain themselves, but you're also monopolizing them to believe that they have to go through your website, they have to go through your link, and that they have to get this ticket, and if not, they're not gonna get access. Not only was it a bust, but also people come to find out, and in fan theories, they've understood and realized that most of these tickets went to influencers that already get brand PR deals from these beauty companies and from these beauty brands. Not only does this make us, the loyal fans or the loyal people, feel as though that we've gotten duped or that we've gotten the rug swept under us, but we feel naive. The biggest front with all of this as well is that Ulta has been a brand of where they have been able to not only see themselves as the opposition to other brands such as Sephora and wherever else you can get makeup, but they've made sure that inclusivity is a viable market of their brand or a viable aspect of their brand. Yet no one could get included into the event. People have realized and checked into the code of the actual website that there was a pre-sale link, a pre-invite to certain people, and internal employees got access to the event than actual loyal fans. So who's getting included here? And with all this, it's made not only distrust within the fan base itself, but there has been several talks of Ulta being boycotted or canceled for what they've been doing. And I've understood completely and why they should, because at the end of the day, you promise your fans one thing and you do not deliver. Just say up front that this is a networking event, not for the everyday person, not for the everyday people. And especially considering that the everyday person is the backbone of your society and is the backbone of your community. It has felt as though that people shouldn't trust brands when it comes to branded events like this. Now, as a studying sociologist that I am, I want to make sense of all this. And I've really looked into the studies of what past philosophers and past sociologists have called and talked about when it comes to the mass herding of people. And I want to bring some academic backing to what this all means and how, as I said, people are not naive, but rather systems are designed for us to participate willingly. To make sense of all this academically, I want to bring in an Italian philosopher and sociologist, Antonio Gramsci. Antonio Gramsci studied how power not only works by force, rather by consent. Once you start considering his theorizations on power and control, cattle culture starts to make sense and starts to grind the gears as to how it plays into our material desires in a material world. Gramsci, in his piece, The Prison Notebook, famously quotes, "The normal exercise of hegemony, or the definition or the dominance of mass social groups, is characterized by the combination of force and consent." According to Gramsci, the strongest systems don't need to force us, but rather they need our participation. And that's what we're seeing with situations like Ulta Beauty World and drop culture. What do I mean by drop culture? Meaning that this has not just happened with Ulta Beauty World, but rather you see these dynamics and these effects when a sneaker comes out, or when a concert drops, or when a rapper is about to release their album and they never actually release the album. They just give you visuals and a repackaged, remixed album of songs that have already come out. Yet the exclusivity and the limitability of these services and products is what keeps bringing fans coming back for more and more. Because in the end, you weren't tricked, but you were guided to believe in the fantasy that Ulta sold you, or that rapper sold you, or that sneaker company sold you. Gramsci basically argues these systems only work when we're willing to participate in them, because we feel it's the only way things will work. As most people that tried to get these Ulta Beauty World tickets, they purposely and forcibly talked about how the link to the tickets are only on the website, and the link to these tickets are only here, and you have to go here, and you have to make sure that everything's right, because if it won't work. This is something that Gramsci likes to talk about, how hegemony only works within the monopolization of the source, and control only works by the consent of those being controlled. Gramsci also asserts common sense is not something rigid or immobile, but continually transforming itself, or what I like to say, reproducing itself. Meaning, when things like this do play out, you hear the reaction of, well, that's just how things are. Socially speaking, it's constructed for us to believe that's how things are, so we could falsify our own reality. And when someone else does a question, oh, well, that wasn't right, and oh, that shouldn't have happened that way, you get the reaction of, oh, well, you're overreacting. That's just how things are. No, Gramsci asserts that the predictability and common sense itself is being reproduced every single day through processes like this because of the control of the source. With this, and to sound human, I don't think people are foolish for wanting to believe that they could get a ticket for Ulta Beauty World or being able to participate in drop culture. I think we're all human. We want to be able to belong into a community. We like belonging, shared excitement, and being able to feel chosen. Ulta's marketing of saying that everyone is a VIP plays into that notion and solidifies that feeling to overturn the number of people that were willing to sign up for ultimate failure, honestly. With this simulates the speculation of belonging with being able to say that, oh, I got a ticket to Ulta Beauty World. Oh, I went to last year's event. Oh, I saw and been able to get these products or saw this person or met this owner, without understanding that that's innately human. We all want community. Us as humans all want to be able to say that we are a part of something that's bigger than us. And with things like Ulta Beauty World ultimately fumbling and being able to fumble an entire loyal fan base is not only creating distrust, but is also playing into the innate fear that we all have as humans, not being chosen, right? I also want to understand and want to bring in how these sociological patterns are not just because of the material world or the material pattern that we're all living in, but rather that we have been able to personalize ourselves, characterize ourselves by who's in the in and who's in the out. With events like Ulta Beauty World, we've understood that now we're not loyal fan bases and we're not people, but rather we're numbers. And we're numbers that look good to brands, especially Ulta. Now, with the reaction of boycott and with the reaction of being canceled, it only makes sense that these have been the reactions because we aren't been able to been chosen. As I said, humans want to and need to feel chosen. They need to feel like they belong somewhere. With Ulta Beauty World, they promised that we were going to belong somewhere, especially considering most of their aspect of their own brand is to be able to feel like you're included and that everyone's beautiful. Yet no one could get a ticket. No one that is of importance could get a ticket. These events and drop culture itself makes the marker or the social marker that you got that thing or that you got that ticket or that you saw that show or that you have that sneaker. With the overturn and the materialistic gain and desire that we've all felt with these processes, it's now turned us from human to livestock, to herds, to cattle. In the end, it just feels as though that you're not regarded for as an actual being. And who am I to talk? I know I've been studying sociology and I think that I'm so smart because I got a degree in whatever. But at the same time, I've really understood and realized that these systems are in place so we can be able to not just participate in it willingly with our own consent, but to not question it. Now with something as dramatic as Ulta Beauty World, you've understood now that being duped and being played for is something that is just gonna happen to the everyday person. As Gramsci says, this has been transforming itself, and that culture and coercion is only met if we consent to it. I feel as though that there's gonna be a trend of not just this happening, but the era of influencers is dying. I mean, yes, myself, I have a social media presence, and you know me as you better believe it, yet I vehemently want to be an anti-influencer. It's not just because I want to this, that, and the other, and I want fame, and I don't. I just want to be able to speak my mind and speak the truth about what's actually going on in our culture and what's actually going on in our society and how you live and how you're perceived in that society. With the recent events of what we've seen with Ulta Beauty World, you've kind of understood that now it doesn't matter what you do, you are just a mere everyday person. And what does it mean to be an everyday person? At the end of the day, you think about it and you go through these notions of, oh, okay, well, maybe I could get a chance this time. Maybe someone like me deserves a place in this process. Yet when the dramatic shift or the dramatic change of not being able to get it and the complete dupe of understanding that 3,000 tickets were released, yet 3 million people are in line, you understand that you're just one cog in the machine. Hence the entirety of being a livestock or being a part of cattle culture. And yes, I coined that myself. Not only because I was upset about the entire thing, but rather I was feeling as though that nothing I did or nothing that I could want to do would amount to anything. And that I was just one person out of the 3 million people that wanted a ticket or that needed a ticket. And it puts into perspective how you're perceived, not only by materialistic standards, but also how you're perceived in the zeitgeist of that is mass consumerism. Mass consumerism, as Gramsci has already told us and it explained to us before, needs our consent for us to all participate in it. You getting duped is because you were willingly wanting to get duped. And I'm not saying that we wanted to get duped. I did not want to get duped at all. Who did? But I'm saying we all actively participate in these social processes every day by wanting and placing importance of products and services and brands every single day. That Balenciaga shirt is not because that person likes the Balenciaga, it's a marker of status. And it's a marker of saying and showing that I participate in mass consumerism. Gramsci have already told us that these processes are made so we do feel like we are a part of the machine. We are not the individualized person, but rather a part of a society that's willing to be able to fall in line, manufacture consent, and be able to say, hey, that's just how things are. That's how it is. No, that's not how things should be at all. I want you to take from this episode to be mindful of where you fall in these processes and how you could see yourself wanting to or desiring an outcome if it's not actually promised to you. This fantasy or predictability of wanting to see that person in concert or getting that album or getting to that event or meeting that person without understanding that this is what's supposed to happen. Your desire and your wanting of these things is what powers these social systems to keep on going without understanding consent and without understanding authority. When you read Gramsci, you've understood not to blame the individual, but to blame the system that places us all within this material world. Exclusivity is a marketing tactic. Limited access is a marketing tactic for you to believe that you're going to be promised something because you're in the in crowd, without understanding who's in the in crowd and who's out. There's power in your voice, there's power in your dollar, and there's power in what you consume and what you don't consume. The reaction of people wanting to boycott Ulta and wanting to cancel Ulta is because there is power in your dollar. There's power in your voice. There's power into being able to say, that was messed up. We got duped, and that's not fair to the absolute community that makes your brand who you are. At this point, I'm talking straight to Ulta because there is no way that San Antonio had the turnout it did last year without being able to say that you advertised it everywhere. The biggest dupe and the biggest front was you advertised it everywhere. Hence why I call this cattle culture. To be able to promise people that they were gonna get something, that they were gonna be a part of something, and place it and paste it onto every single platform ever for the past 2 months not only creates excitement, but it creates the entitlement of thinking that people are going to get in and no one gets in. It's wanted and it's warranted. That's all I'm saying. Being able to sit there for 2 hours in the middle of a work week, stopping everything that you're gonna do, stopping everything that you had to be able to do, freezing your bank account, making sure that there's money in there, making sure that you have enough emotional capacity to sit there for this ticket that was never promised to you, is cattle culture, is what Gramsci is talking about when we say that these things are reproduced every single day. These social systems are reproduced every single day by our own consent and by our own emotional attachment and tie to all of these materialistic desires and processes that we attach feeling to. I want to say thank you for watching and thank you for tuning in, and I hope this sparked interest and debate into what you were thinking about already in the past. If you want to learn more about how this has been already written in sociological academic terms, I have a lot of links and absolutely message me on. I love this type of stuff. Power, coercion, and the mass control of people is literally one of my strong suits in study. So one of my study interests is media and influence. And if you ever want to talk about this, know that you're in the right direction, and know that participating in this and questioning why you do participate in this is the right direction into understanding where you fall in line and how you are perceived in society. I'm your host, Felice, and this was Socially Speaking. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I really do appreciate you being here. And if no one told you you're great, let me be the one to say you're great, you're awesome, and you're worth it. I'll see you guys later. Bye. Mwah.